So today we're going to be talking about something that's actually pretty confusing. But don't worry, I'm going to be explaining it so that a 10-year-old can even understand it. And of course, we're talking about Tottenham's Premier League and UEFA squad numbers. How many players can we actually register in the Premier League and in the Champions League this season? And let me tell you, it's kind of a mess. But before I get into it, guys, make sure to drop a like and a subscribe. You guys have been absolutely killing it. As I always say, man, I can't thank you guys enough for all the support on the channel lately. And we're on the road to 1K. So the goal is to hit 1K before the first Premier League game of the season. So if you guys make that happen, man, you guys are absolute legends. And I can't thank you guys enough. But yeah, drop a like, drop subscribe, and let's get right into the video. Okay, so when it comes to the Premier League squad rules, there are two sets of rules that we actually need to worry about. So for the Premier League squad, we can have maximum of 25 senior players. So senior players count as players that are over the age of 21. And we must have at least 8 homegrown players. And of course, under 21s don't count in the 25-man squad. So they're unlimited. You can have, if you want to, you could have 100 under 21 players if you wanted to. So they don't actually count in the squad numbers. And then when it comes to the UEFA squad rules, it's also 25 players max, but it's a lot stricter. So we need 4 club trained players and 4 need to be association trained. And I will break down those definitions shortly, but for the knowledge, you need 4 club trained players and 4 association trained players. If you don't have 4 club trained players, you lose those spots. For example, if you only have 1 club trained player, then you only have a maximum of a 22-man squad. So that's very important to take note of in how it pertains to Tottenham. And also, under 21s can go on a B list. So a B list is essentially players born 2003 or later and have been at the club for 2+ years. And of course, the same way at the Premier League, there is no limit there, so you can have as many under 21s as you want in the squad. Okay, so for the key definitions, let's break down exactly what each term means. So for homegrown, according to the Premier League, it is essentially a player trained in England or Wales for 3 years before turning 21. So let me say that again. A homegrown player is a player trained in England or Wales for 3 years before turning 21. For club trained players, for UEFA, they've been trained at Spurs for 3 years between the ages of 15 and 21. Again, for club trained UEFA players, they have been at Spurs for 3 years between ages 15 and 21. And now, for association trained for UEFA, they've been trained anywhere in England or Wales for 3 years between the ages of 15 and 21. Once again, trained anywhere in England or Wales for 3 years between the ages of 15 and 21. And of course, pretty self-explanatory, non-homegrown doesn't mean any of those rules. So usually there's pretty much foreign players. And then for the B list, as I mentioned before, they're pretty much any player under 21 who have been at the club for more than 2 years. So that's like a Mikey Moore, for example, or Dane Scarlett, or is Dane Scarlett even Mikey Moore? I'm gonna stay on Mikey Moore. So pretty much like a Mikey Moore type of player. So they've been under 21 and have been at the club for 2+ years. Okay, so now that we actually know what the terms mean and all the definitions and stuff like that, let's have a look at our squad right now, and I'll put it on screen because I don't want to name every single player, but I'll put it on screen. And I'll list out essentially if they're homegrown, non-homegrown, all that good stuff, club trained, all that good stuff. I'll put it all on the screen right now. Okay, so now that we actually understand the definitions and what they all mean, how does the squad actually look for the Premier League? And to be honest, it's not bad. So we need 8 homegrown players, and right now we've got Brendan Austin, Kevin Danso, yes, Danso counts as homegrown too, Jed Spence, Ben Davis, James Maddison, Dom Slanky, and Brennan Johnson. So that's about 7. Then if you add in Gibbs-White, then that's 8. So we're actually pretty fine there. And even if we don't get Gibbs-White, not hard to find a homegrown player. That's not a problem. We're good for the Premier League. We should be. But now the whole point of this video and where the actual problem lies is in the Champions League. And this is where Spurs are in serious trouble. Let's talk about the club train requirement. We need 4 club trained players to submit the full 25-man squad. And Tottenham only have a resounding 1. So that means we lose 3 squad spots. Our Champions League squad is now capped at a resounding 22 players, not 25. So for the association players that we have at the club, we're also good for that. We've got Maddison, Brennan Johnson, Ben Davis, Archie Gray, Jed Spence, Morgan Gibbs-White if he comes. Like I said, we only need 4 of those, so we're good for that. We don't even have to register all of them. So that's not the problem. The actual problem lies in the non-homegrown players. We have way too many foreigners at this club. So yeah, that's the big problem there. So yeah, we're pretty much cooked for the Champions League squad numbers as of right now. And remember, we can only have 22 total spots. And some of those are already taken by a few homegrown and association trained players that we must include. And remember, that's the 4 spots that are taken up. So that means we can probably register only 14 to 15 non-homegrown players. So we're about 5 or 6 over. So the harsh reality is that Tottenham will need to sell, loan, or leave out at least 5 senior players if we want to make this work. And from the entire squad that we have right now, the most likely names to go are probably Yves Bissouma, Richarlison, Manor Solomon, Bryan Gil, Ben Davis, and this is where it gets tough. Maybe Heung-min Son, and maybe Bentancur as well. However, I think that's unlikely, but we're going to have to make some harsh decisions. Or, if we do keep these players, we're going to have to leave some really good players out of the Champions League squad, which I think will piss off a lot of players in my opinion. And if Gibbs-White signs as well, that also adds another player that we have to make room for. And on top of that, we're saying that we need a 6. So let's even see like a one in, one out situation. Bissouma leaves, Paulina comes in. That still doesn't fix the problem. That's just a 1 in, 1 out. Like, we need to sell more players. That's the whole problem that we're having here. So what? We want a 6. We want full back cover. We're still looking at center backs. We want another striker to have good competition with Solanke. Like, the numbers just aren't numbering. You know what I mean? Anyways, though, enough of the doom and gloom. There's some good news here, surprisingly. In a few years, players like Mikey Moore, Lucas Bergvall, and Archie Gray will all count as club-trained players if they stay at Spurs long enough, which I assume they will, unless a player like Archie Gray gets loaned out, which could also be a possibility too, depending on how Thomas Frank feels. But yeah, Mikey Moore, Lucas Bergvall, and Archie Gray will all probably remain at Spurs, hopefully, and then they'll all count as club trained. Now, this also makes for some tough decisions because the squad is already massive. So if we keep a player like Mikey Moore, will he really get that many minutes to satisfy himself and also develop the player? I don't know. But if he does remain at Spurs, then the squad building for the future will be a lot easier. And we can start to have bigger squads like a Man City, like a Liverpool, like a Man United. We can have much bigger squads once you start getting these players to actually count as club trained. Okay, so hypothetically speaking, if I'm just making the squad right now, let's just assume that we sell Bissouma, Davis, Solomon, Hill, and Richarlison. And then from there, you'd have your squad. From there, you keep Son, you keep Bentancur. What you could probably do is you could leave out a Kota Takai, a Radu Dragusin, and a Kulusevski. Takai, because he's young, he's inexperienced, he'll have many more years to get in the Champions League squad. He'll be fine, he'll live. Dragusin, because he's coming off an ACL, he's training, but he's probably not going to be fit in time for the start of the season. And on top of that, will he really be back to his best? We don't know. Kulusevski, same thing, coming off a heart injury. Will he be back to his best? We don't know. So leave those 3 out for the first half of the Champions League squad, at least for the first half of the season. And from there, based off of the numbers and everyone else that we have remaining here, you then have more of a opportunity to sign at least 1 player, because remember, max is 17 for non-homegrown. Right now we have 16 leaving out these 3 players. I mean, I guess at that point you could include a Kulusevski now if you wanted to, or a Dragusin, but this would leave room for like a Morgan Gibbs-White to come in, and then you have a 17-man squad. But still, in that latter second half of the season, you're going to run into the exact same problems. Like, you're going to have to leave out some really good players or sell or loan out players. And there have been rumors of Son potentially staying for the first half of the season, and then in the second half, Son leaving during the January transfer window. So there is a possibility where Son leaves during January, 1 in, 1 out, good player comes in, and then that's our signing for the January window. So either way, it's still not looking good. Like, if we want to sign a 6, if you want to sign a backup fullback, if you want to sign a backup striker, looking at the squad right now, it's still pretty cooked, bro. It's still pretty cooked. And with this Champions League squad too, there isn't really a backup striker. You have mathystel there, sure, but we all know that, like, I mean, in my personal opinion, I don't think mathystel is the ideal striker. I think he's much more of a winger, in my opinion. Could he do a job? Yeah, he can. So, but is it like a square peg and round hole? Is that the analogy? Square peg and round holes? I don't know, man, but you get the point. Like, the squad's in trouble. The numbers are not looking good. That's the reality. Okay, so here's the bottom line. Tottenham have one of the most exciting squad in years. Listen, last season was an underperformance, 100%. I think thomasfrank will get the best that he can out of these players. But we can't register everyone, not for Europe at least. So unless we sell multiple players or make brutal decisions like leaving a Son or a Bentancur out of the squad, we're in trouble. Let me know what you guys would do. Who should we sell? Who would you want to have in the Europe squad? And do you actually think that Spurs can fix this situation? And speaking of fixing situations, if you want to see how Mohammed Kudus absolutely came on and changed the entire dynamic for Spurs against Reading in a preseason club friendly, check out this video right here. Drop a like and a subscribe.